Hello everybody, this is Kirsho here. Now then, this is going to be part 1 to what if Deku had a Yaoja's abilities, if not a Predator's abilities. Now, before I begin, I did get asked exactly what... Okay, for those of you who've been around my channel, and for those of you who have not, I asked people in my last video of my vampire what if I should do a theory video on My Hero Academia. Because I actually do think it would be a good idea. If not, this theory might actually have some good backing to it. Now, it's basically how I believe the series might end, if not how it could go, well, essentially how it would end, basically. Now, with that being said, let us continue this one. Let us start with Izuku Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya, he is born, except he is not born quirkless. He will manifest a quirk, but just not yet. Now, Deku, growing up, Inko's noticed that he's been able to essentially adapt to his environment. If not, he is essentially a little bit stronger and a little bit faster than every other child. Now, what I mean by that is, Deku, whenever he was learning to walk, he was actually able to use his muscles a bit faster. Basically, he learned to walk very fast. Instead of it taking probably about a year and a half for him to be up and running, if not 2 years, it took him probably about a couple months. If not, let's say a year. Now, with that, Inko, she's very confused by this and she's just trying to think. Does Deku have like a super strength quirk or a strength enhancing quirk? If so, that's going to be very strong. But she is wrong. Now, let us cut to Deku being 4. Deku, he is going to the quirk doctor, and he would find that he does have a quirk. Except it's very different from what Inko thought. He is diagnosed with a quirk called adaptation. If not, they quite simply can call it adapted. Now, this quirk is very unique and very rare, because it allows Deku to quickly adapt to any environment he is in, if not any, place. Along with the fact that the doctor would quite simply just do one thing. He would tell Inko to, let Deku try this out. As Deku, he would just be told to put his hand on the table and basically, if you guys have ever played Five Finger Fillet or Fillet, it's where you basically stab the spaces in between your fingers and you try not to nick one. Now, Deku's doing that with a very sharp pencil, but he's doing that and you find that as soon as he does poke into his hand actually does toughen up and get a little bit rougher, actually breaking the pencil. Now, Deku would just pull the pencil away as the doctor would just look down at his finger, as his finger would just untoughen up and go back down. Now, Inko's a bit confused, and the doctor would just explain. This quirk is a very rare, if not a very strong one. He can be a very good hero with this. In fact, it's considered to be it's a strong quirk, but it's not very flashy. Along with the fact that, being trained properly, he could be a very versatile hero. Now then, with that being said, there is somebody watching from a distance. The Yaoja, if not the Bad Bloods. The Bad Bloods are the 2% population of the Yaoja homeworld. They are the worst of the worst, with them being the only criminals on the planet, being sentenced to death and escaping. Now, they have come up with a very special plan. In fact, it involves their prey. if not their hunt. Since most Yaoja can live for a very long time, they've seen humanity evolve, if not develop quirks. They've done their own types of research, along with the fact that they've actually hunted some of these new quirks, or people with quirks. They find them to be a lot more interesting and a lot more fun to play with. But they've gotten often bored, considering the hunt is usually almost ended, if not only come close to draws. With the fact that with the Yaoja's superior weaponry and their hunting tactics, they're able to take these people out fairly quickly. But most of their quirks sometimes can be useless. But they are looking for new prey. If not, they want to at least hunt stronger ones. Since these bad-blooded, they have no honor, no good reputation, and they're basically just scumbags. They will be picking up the new generation. The strongest, well, the theory that quirk singularity. Each quirks get stronger with each generation. So the newest generation have the strongest quirks. So the bad blood, being very eager, will just pick up children. Now, Deku, he is walking home. He is really excited because he just showed off his quirk at kindergarten. And on his way home, this is whenever Deku, he would see a ginormous man in a mask. He's just staring up at him as he's somewhat confused. He's very impressed because this man's very muscular, he's very scaly, and in fact he does look pretty cool. But Deku, he would just feel some sharp pain in his neck as he actually just bring his hand up, as he would pull out a small needle. Now, the skin around Deku's neck did harden, it's just that with this being a stronger metal, it was actually able to pierce through. And Deku would just fall to the ground, passing out. Now, the Yaoja would have to act fairly quickly because of Deku's quirk. They would quickly put him into containment and get him aboard the ship and take off, heading for a game reserve. Now, what do I mean by a game reserve? The Yaoja have special hunting grounds, set up vastly over long distances, if not long galaxies. Many of these planets are similar to Earth and house similar atmospheres, with small differences. Now, with that, they would drop off these children on the planet and give them a couple days, if not a couple weeks, to try and survive. Now, as soon as Deku would wake up, he finds that he's in a field, as he would stand up and look around. This area is very different, it's very confusing, as he finds a lot of other children. Now, he is actually just asking a lot of people's names, and he would get some. John, Melissa, not Melissa Shield, before anyone asks. And, well, let's say one of the kids that were in Bakugo's group with a flight quirk. So that guy's grandson, the doctor. Along with, I want to say a couple other kids, just with weird quirks. Now, basically the Yaoja would send down a package, and it would just quite simply have one message on it, along with a little bit of food. Now, they would just quite simply say, "This is a hunting grounds. You will need to survive here for 2 to 3 weeks, and prove who here might be the strongest. Now, we will arrive then. Also know, creatures here are fairly dangerous. If those of you who would choose to, here is a guide, and a cipher." Basically, they would hand over, if not give out, 2 books. These books are detailing the creatures on the planet, if not the ones in the reserve. Along with the fact that the cipher, it is basically, well, human to Yaoja, but it's not easy. Figuring out exactly what that is, if not what these books say, will take quite a lot of time. Now, with that being said, Deku, he is fairly in shock, learning that apparently they're on a different planet. A lot of the other kids, they're confused and they're actually pretty scared, and they're not paying attention to this. But Deku, he would walk over, picking up the book and the cipher. He's actually somewhat happy about this. But if they're on a different planet, then that means that, wait, these guys are aliens, right? Wait, guys, if we're on this planet, does that mean we're aliens? As a lot of other kids would just look over at Deku. They're a bit confused as to why he can even smile right now. In fact, the situation is all pretty scary. Now, with that, Deku, he would just start walking away, if not trying to find a place to stay for a while. Walking through the forest, he would just find let's say let's say he does find a giant stick, and he would actually pick it up and find that it's a little heavy. But it's not really anything. Now, as he's walking through the forest, he is trying to figure out exactly where he can stay, along with the fact that he does want to find some actual food. If they're supposed to stay here for that long, then they'll need something to eat. Deku, he would come along to a ship, if not what looks like to be some ruins. He would want to walk in, but he feels like there might be something in there. So he would just stay away from it. Now then. Deku, he is somewhat confused, as he would hear something behind him. He would immediately turn around and bring up the stick like it's a bat. And there's nothing there. In fact, there seems to be just nothing. But he still does hear the twigs breaking, as he would quickly turn and run away. Now, as that's happening, Deku, he just keeps hearing things break, and he actually would just turn around looking up, finding that there's something jumping through the trees, if not chasing after him. Now, eventually Deku would turn his head back around as he does run into a tree. Yeah, now, as that happens, Deku, he would fall to the ground, and he can actually feel himself somewhat adapting, as it's getting a little bit easier to breathe, and things are a bit more, well, easier to see. His eyes are adjusting to the light on the planets, and his body is adjusting to running. Now, he actually would bring his hands up, as this thing is now right on top of him. Now, whenever he does try and make it out, he would just bring his hands up, blocking the sun, as there is a girl standing over him. He's a bit confused as he's looking at her, and she would just help him to his feet. She would just ask him what his name is, and he would just explain that his name is Midoriya. Oh, well, okay, my name is Asui. Okay. Do you... what? Sorry about that. It's just, I didn't know what you were. Oh. No, it's fine, it's just I didn't expect anyone to be jumping through the trees. Yeah, sorry. It's kind of... well, it's safe to stay up there. Fair point. Now, Deku, he would just somewhat be confused, as he's looking around and he would see the book and the cipher on the ground. He would just ask Asui if there's a safe place right now, that they can hide, if not rest for a second. She would just say that of course there is, as she would just bend down like a frog and jump up into the tree. As Deku's confused, she would just extend her tongue out, as she would wrap it around Deku, pulling him up to the one next to her, if not close by her. Deku just taking this chance to get his balance and basically sit down. He's just letting his legs dangle as he actually just opened the book and started flipping through it. There's these strange symbols, if not these strange writing, and he can't even tell what it says. But as he holds up the cipher, he actually does realize that these are essentially the ABCs, but they're all, well, it's in this other language. Now, Deku and Tsuyu would be going over the next 3 hours trying to just figure out this one page. As they would find out that this plant they're looking at is actually poisonous. In fact, it does have good properties and it's very flammable, yes, but it's also poisonous. As they're flipping through, they would actually see one creature. This thing looks very scary, if not very dangerous. Along with the fact that the way it's described, and essentially the height measurements on it, compared to a Yaoja, it's basically around the size of it's around the size of 3 adult males stacked on top of each other. With that being said, Deku, he's still looking at this, as he just says that they should go find the others. Now, this is whenever Tsuyu, she would agree, as they would come down from the tree and start looking around. They'd be walking through the forest, as eventually they would find the area Deku woke up in. A lot of the other kids are just staying there and they're actually playing in the grass. If not playing in what looks to be grass, but Deku, just looking a bit closer at it, would find that that's actually the poisonous weed, if not the poison plant. He would just tell everyone to move out of that and to get out of that. It's not safe. People aren't believing him, as one of these kids would actually just prick their fingers on the leaves. As it begins to swell up into boils, it gets very, very disgusting looking. And the kids are then scared, as they would actually listen to Deku. This kid is just laying in the grass, as his body is getting covered in sores. Now, Deku, he is now looked upon as a leader, for now. As the Yaoja, they're actually just watching this. The smartest kid there, if not the one who shows the most prowess so far. With that being said, they are then watching as over the next week, Deku would just be doing one thing. He's looking more and more detail over the cipher, along with the fact that he's trying to at least find plants and or fruits on the reserve that would be safe. Along with getting everyone up into the trees and trying to at least keep them alive. But after that one kid died, well, everyone, they were a lot more keen to listen to him. Deku would then be going over a lot of different things, and people are getting hungry now. If not, they're starving. They're barely finding any plants in the reserve, as Deku, he is basically, his metabolism has slowed, allowing him to carry on longer and longer. Now, eventually Deku would find that there is one creature on this reserve that might actually be edible. This thing looks like a cow, but it also looks like a reptile and a scorpion. Along with the fact that its legs do look very, very long. It's somewhat like a giant insect, I guess you can say. But it is basically described as a creature that's similar, if not a genetic cousin, to a cow that they have on Yacha Prime. Now, Deku, he's still a bit not sure about this, as he is actually reading through it and finding that there are different ways to catch these if not prepare them. There is one method, which is to aim for its brain and take it out, which Deku's going over as he would find that there's 3 hearts in this thing. So the brain is going to have to be the best option. Now, Deku, he just quite simply would just ask everyone if they can help him with this. People are too tired, if not just too hungry to even move. So Deku would just stand up as he begins, he would just pick up, if not, he would just climb down to the tree floor and just pick up a rock. He picks it up and he begins to slide he slides it over a branch, actually trying to create a makeshift spear. As he's doing this, eventually it will get sharp enough and he does go out, as he is trying to at least get a good vantage point in the trees. He's just asking if anyone can make a fire, and people, they're moving too slow. So, Deku, he would just try hunting faster, if not trying to at least get things ready for them. He begins by climbing up into a tree and actually waiting by this giant cave. As this is happening, Deku, he would see a baby one of these creatures, if not what looks to be a calf. This thing is very big. It's about the size of, yikes, it's about the size of a car almost. If not, it's a bit bigger than a motorcycle. But that doesn't deter Deku, finding that if he can at least kill that, then they should have food for a while. Now, Deku would then watch as the mother appears. This thing is huge, and in fact its head is so elongated. It somewhat sticks out from its body. But Deku, that does not deter him, as he's at least thinking that if he can kill this thing, then they should have plenty of food. As Deku, he would prepare himself, and this is whenever Tsuyu would appear. Tsuyu has been getting a bit more food, but with the fact that she's more like a frog, I want to say she may be able to eat a bit more of the plants, if not some of the insects on the planet a bit better than other people. So she's just telling Deku that she can at least try and help. Deku would just, he's a bit more confused as he would just hand over one of the spears he's sharpened, saying that if this doesn't work, then, they might be screwed. As Deku just essentially gets ready, he would just jump out of the tree, as he brings the spear overhead and starts slamming it down as he is falling straight down. He slams down into this thing's upper back as it gets pushed to the ground. He would then bring a spear up as this thing immediately begins to lift its body up, nearly throwing Deku off balance. Tsuyu would just come in, smashing down next to Deku, stabbing the spear into its back, as Deku slams this thing down into its skull, killing it. Now, this is whenever Deku, he would just announce to everyone that they have food. They just need to get it prepared. Now, people are somewhat happy, but, they're very tired. They're very exhausted. Getting the firewood alone was enough to, tire them out. No. They would basically have Deku just rip into this thing and open it up, as he does get the meat out of it. He's trying to prepare it, but the way it's being told, you basically have to. It's a very weird meat, because you have to soak it to get out certain toxins, boil parts of it, take off the skin and fat off of things, and you actually do have to peel it, if not cut it up. Deku would eventually do this as he's getting things prepared, and people are just watching him. Tsuyu's actually helping as Deku would finally get the first course done. This thing looks to be the size of a bat, and this is just one of its legs. This thing is huge. Deku's dividing up as much food as he can as people are just cheering on a bit more. They just be eating and eating and eating away as much as possible until their bellies are full. And Deku, he is revered, if not cheered on, as being the best hunter they have. Now then, that is where I'm going to be leaving things off of, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video. And this one's going to be a bit more... It's going to be a bit more fan fiction-y, as you can tell, but... it's going to be... I hope it turns out good.